Okay, and now we're on to the fourth of the four big questions. And a lot of times my clients don't necessarily need to get to this point because it's who will raise your minor or disabled children if you can't do that. So really we're moving on to more of who do you trust to raise your kids the right way? And so for a lot of my clients, their kids may already be grown or they don't have kids. But it's still a very important part of what we're doing if you do have minor or even disabled children. So, who makes a good guardian? Well, first, you do have to trust that they will raise your children the way you want them to. So we're kind of getting to more about values as opposed to any financial type of skill set. So they really should be kind of in line with your thinking about who you want to actually take over raising your children if you can't. Who's going to make decisions for them, help shepherd them through educationally the right way, teach them the values that you hold dear, and get them ready for adulthood. Now, I often get questions and people try to merge these two things as if, oh, well, the person who's going to end up being a trustee over their money has to be the same person raising them. No, they don't. And then I also hear, oh, well, you never want to have the person who's raising your children in charge of the money too. Well, no, that's not correct either. It really depends upon the people you want raising your children. They could be the best people in the world, completely in line with everything that you think about when it comes to raising children and values, but they can't balance a checkbook. Well, that's fine. That's not a reason not to name them as guardians if you've got a good financial person who can work with them to make sure that the money is being spent appropriately. That issue also comes up quite a bit with divorced clients. Well, they still will trust their former spouse to raise their kids, and there's custody arrangements and even constitutional rights to allow them to raise their children. But that doesn't mean that the money also has to go there. So keep thinking about those as separate decisions. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you're not giving your kids to someone. You're recommending guardianship. A judge always has to have that kind of final approval to transfer guardianship and custody to someone else when somebody passes on. That always has to be in place. So how does it really work? Well, in general, a judge really has to find some compelling reason why the person you've recommended is not the person to actually get custody. And I see it all the time. Again, I've been doing estate planning for more than 20 years now, and I've seen people come in with papers that show they want the guardian, and it's been about 7 years, and about 5 years ago the person went into bankruptcy, got hooked on alcohol and drugs, they went to prison for 6 months for burglary, and all this other stuff happens, and well, if they passed on, a judge is not going to look and say, oh, this is who they want, okay, we're going to sign off on it. Whoa, no. A lot has changed since then. So the judge always has to be in there. But again, your recommendation still goes a long way. That's really a compelling reason for a judge to kind of go against what you've put down. A second thing is, as a factor, the older your child gets, the more of a say they have in who will be their guardian. So if you imagine a 4-year-old wants to go with Aunt Tilly, but you don't want that, and you have a list of other relatives, a judge isn't going to pay that much attention to the 4-year-old saying they want to go with Aunt Tilly. On the other hand, the child is 16 or 17, Aunt Tilly lives right down the street, they're in their junior year of high school, they want to finish at that high school, they've been shown that they're a lot more responsible. that may be a reason for a judge to kind of go against your recommendation because it makes sense. So that's where the judge comes into play. But always remember, your recommendation goes a long, long way because you know your children, you know how you would want them raised, and these are the people that you've listed. So again, yeah, your recommendation does go a long way. Now, as with the financial and healthcare agents, I always recommend think of individuals. And this is the part where a lot of times my clients are thinking more about couples. Always go with an individual. And if they're still with that person, great. Most of the time, when my clients are saying, oh, well, I want my brother Tom and his wife Sarah, what they really mean is they want their brother Tom. Sarah just happens to be there. Think about it in that way. So Tom would be listed. Sometimes I hear, and it's because there's a 50% divorce rate that's out there. Always assume that a couple's going to be divorced. Would you still want that other person in there? More often than you'd think, the answer is yes. If Tom and Sarah got divorced, it doesn't matter. Sarah's a great person. She loves the kids. Even if she's divorced from Tom, she would do a fantastic job raising them. Okay, they can be in there. But always think of individuals as opposed to couples together. So come up with that same kind of list. Who's first? If they can't do it, who's second? And if they can't do it, who's third? Now, I also sometimes get the question, oh, well, they're older than we are. I don't know if we should pick them. Well, think about it reasonably. If it's, well, your kids are young, but your parents are still kind of young. Well, then they're older than you, but they may be perfect for raising their grandkids and getting them, at least out of high school and out of the house at 18. Don't discount that. At the same time, I wouldn't say make everybody in your list older than you are. Try to think a little bit down the road and into the future as well. So you're trying to find 3 people. Now, if you really do want your parents and your spouse's parents, and, well, okay, that's 4, that's fine. You can list all 4 of them in order of age, and we can look to even add people to that list. There are ways to do that. So that's how I encourage people to think about that 4th big question, again, if they end up having to get to that. So those are the big 4 questions that we have for estate planning, and I hope you found this information useful, and we'll talk to you soon.